Jake here. Today we're going to find out why and how to stabilize wood. First thing we need to talk about is what is stabilizing. Stabilizing is taking all the air out of a piece of wood and replacing it with resin that you make hard later. So just an example, this is a piece of maple burl, and the thing that surprised me the most about when I first got these was how light they are. It's almost like they're a sponge, and that's a good way to think of this, as a big sponge. And this is not stabilized right now. I have two pin blanks right here that are stabilized, and they're heavy and they're really hard, and you can almost, you can kind of hear that they're hard. Now listen to this burl. It almost sounds hollow, and it's because it's full of air, it's really light, and that's what stabilizing is going to do, is remove all of this air, and we're going to replace it with Cactus Juice resin is what we're going to do. So now we need to ask ourselves, why do we need to stabilize? Well, there's two reasons for me and my needs. One, this is so light that I'm sure if I cut out a square of this and put it on a lathe, it'd probably blow apart. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, if you try to cast with resin, epoxy, whatever you want to call it, with this, it's going to be cloudy and dirty and nasty because all the air is going to try to come out of this while you're in the pressure pot, while you're casting it. So two reasons. One, it's going to heavy this up. It's going to make it way stable and nice and solid, and it's going to work well with your epoxy. So there's just two basic reasons for me. I'm sure there's more. Go ahead and comments below and tell everybody what it is. But those, for me, those are the important things that I'm going to do it for. So it's solid and it works well with resin. There's several pieces of equipment that you're going to need to get into a stabilization process. And I'm sure you notice some of the things back here. We're going to go over each one individually and tell you why you need them and what's going on. I have links to them all below so you can check them out, price them, you can buy them if you want to. Of course, that'll help me out, but I'm just going to give you an idea of what it takes to get into this. And as far as hobbies go, it's really not that bad because you can spend more on a bowling ball. So we're going to go over all these and let's do it. This right here is the Cactus Juice resin I was talking about. It is a stabilizer resin. This is what you're normally going to see when you think about resin, part A, part B, and this, you mix it together and then it gets hard. This is for the casting, and that's not what we're talking about. So we're talking about this. This right here has a shelf life of a few years. This is my understanding of it. And this little stuff right here is the catalyst that you put in there. So when you get ready to use this, you mix this whole bottle with this, and you shake it up, and now it has a shelf life of months instead of years, but it's ready to use. So instead of the two-part here, after you mix this together, it's gonna go into the wood, and then the second part of this is gonna be heat. So heat activates this, and that's what turns it hard. So that's what we need to know right now, that we gotta use this to make this work, and it reduces the shelf life. But it'll have a way long shelf life if we don't add this in. So if I'm not ready to do some stabilizing right now, just don't mix this with this. The next thing I have right here is a scale. I use it for my regular casting stuff, but on this stuff, you're gonna need it to measure the wood at certain different times, and we're gonna go over that. So you need some kind of a scale to measure wood. One of them is gonna be that's how we're gonna know if the wood is all the way dry, is by we're gonna weigh it. Of course, you need some wood to stabilize, so I have all these different burls, things like that. So we have plenty of stuff to stabilize. I'm just going to do one for this demonstration today, just to get our feet wet. But this is the kind of stuff that you're going to see get stabilized around here. The next thing you're going to need is a vacuum chamber. Now you can make them, or you can just buy them. You can buy them as a kit. Now I bought this separate than the vacuum pump. So I'll have a link to this one, and I have a link to a cheaper one. I'm not really sure I needed this. This is a little bit more expensive than I think I needed. I got some advice for some pretty smart people later that said I probably didn't need this expensive one. So I'll have a link to this one, and I'll have a link to a lesser expensive one. But you need a chamber, and I wanted a big chamber because I normally do bigger castings. So you need your vacuum chamber. you need a vacuum pump, and then you need a source of heat. So a cheap toaster oven is fine, but if you get a cheap toaster oven, they're cheap for a reason, is these numbers over here that say what the temperature is, it's not going to be accurate to what's actually going on in there. So another thing you need to get is going to be these little thermometers. So I bought two of them. I bought two of them while I was buying them. I'll have links to these, but they're not that expensive, and you need to be pretty precise when you do this stuff. So I'll have one set on this side, and I'll have one set on this side, and I'll make sure, and if they're a little bit different, I'll just take the average of the two and I'll set it to that. But I already messed with this a little bit, and I already know that if I want it at 220, this dial needs to be past 250. So if you're gonna do this stuff, get you a cheap toaster oven, but make sure you get the thermometers. First thing I need to do is select the piece of wood that I want to stabilize. And this is spalted maple burl. It should be pretty neat. I think I'm gonna make a mallet out of this, but this is what I chose. Now I'm gonna check it with a moisture meter just for fun. 6.3, it says 6.4. So that's our starting point, and now we're gonna weigh it. What do we got there? 382 grams. So the first process we're gonna do is we're gonna put this in the oven, and we're gonna leave it in there at about 220 degrees for 24 hours. I'm gonna leave it there overnight, and that's where the weight comes in. So I'm gonna put it in there overnight, and I'm gonna weigh it again tomorrow. And then after that, I'll put it back in the oven for another hour or so, and then see if it gets any lighter than that. If it doesn't get any lighter, that means all the moisture's out of this. And the reason that we put it at 220 degrees, because that's above boiling. So if there's moisture inside of there, we want it to steam out, is pretty much my understanding of it. So as far as tinfoil goes, some people do, some people don't. There's videos out there that some people use it, some people don't. I'm not gonna use it, and we'll see what happens. So once again, if you have a different opinion about using tinfoil, go ahead and put it in the comments below. But I'm gonna put this in the oven. I'm gonna put it in there for 220 degrees for 24 hours, and then we'll come back and we're gonna weigh it. So it's been about 24 hours, and so I'm going to take this out. I'm going to let it cool off for a couple minutes. That's one thing you need to keep in mind, is even though it's not at that high of a temperature, it's still hot enough to burn you. So I got a couple of rags to grab it with. I'm going to set it here for a couple minutes, let it cool off a minute. I'm going to weigh it, check the moisture in it, and I'm going to put it back in here for another hour just to see if it changes after that. So here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and weigh it and see what the difference is. Now remember, we started at 382, so we lost about 40 grams, so moisture has gone out of it. And I'm even having trouble getting the moisture reader to even read moisture in it. I'm gonna put it in there for another hour and see how much weight we lose after that. Okay, it's been an hour, so I'm going to take it back out of the oven and we're going to weigh it. This moisture meter starts working at 5%, so that's why it won't read that, because it's below 5%, which is a good thing. So we're going to weigh it and see if we need to dry it anymore. $344.6, and it was $344.9 I think before, so we only lost 3/10 of a gram, so I'm gonna call that pretty good. I'm gonna call that good. Now if you want to make it to where there's no loss at all, then go ahead, but I think this is gonna be pretty good. It's under 5%. It didn't lose very much in an hour, so I'm gonna get the vacuum chamber ready and we're gonna go from there. I had to go get a bucket for the vacuum chamber to fit the wood in, so I ended up leaving it in the oven for another hour, and I'm going to show you what the weight is. 344.6, and that's exactly what I had. That's exactly what I had an hour ago, so now we know this thing is exactly dry. Now we're gonna come over here and look at the vacuum chamber and the cactus juice. So here's our vacuum chamber. I could put the cactus juice directly in this, but then I have to clean it up. It just so happens that a 5-gallon bucket will fit right inside here, like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix this up. You have to put the catalyst in here. This cactus juice comes with very specific instructions. So I watch videos from Heath Knuckles, Zach Higgins, Casey Martin. I watch those three, and they tell you beyond this stuff. But this is pretty clear, pretty precise. It tells you exactly, he's kind of put in here what the common problems are or whatever, but this is very clear, very precise what to do. So one of the things is we need to put the catalyst in here, and then our wood. We're going to put our wood in here, and you need to overfill it. Obviously, I need to put something on there to weight it down first, but you need to overfill it because once you release the vacuum and the cactus juice goes into that wood, your level's going to come down. And if your level goes down below the wood, then you just did all that for nothing. You have to redo it. So I'm going to purposely overfill this, and I'm going to draw a line on here that we can see, so we'll be able to see how much the fluid goes down. This is a pretty big piece of wood, so it should be noticeable. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix these, and I'm going to weight this down and fill it up, and then we'll go from there. Now I just overfilled it by a lot because I don't want to be too short and soak up air instead of cactus juice. So what I'm going to do is I obviously overfilled it, and now I'm going to mark where it's at so that we'll be able to see later how much the level went down. Now I'm going to show you real quick, there's already air bubbles coming out just by being in the cactus juice. So I have my camera set up over here so we'll be able to see it. Before I start, I'm going to explain what I'm doing. The vacuum pump's going to get loud. So what I'm going to do is I'll turn this on, and I'm going to close this exhaust valve. And right at first, that wood's going to be so full of air, it's going to want to over bubble and get all frothy and be weird. So I can control that by this valve over here. So what you're going to see is this is going to try to come up on me, and I'm going to control the vacuum with this over here. So we're going to do it, and then whenever it stops bubbling, or dang near stops bubbling, then we're going to let it soak for 24 hours after that. So let's get this vacuum on and let's get going. So we'll come back when it's almost done bubbling, and then we'll go from there. So what you're seeing right here is only after about 10 minutes. This is all the way open, the vacuum's all the way maxed out, and this is what we got. So it's not going to over bubble, and I can pretty much leave it alone for a while and come back to it later. This is about 4 hours in and it's still bubbling, so it's about 9:30 at night, so I'll probably come out here in a couple hours, and if it's not done then, I'll just let it go overnight. So here this is right now. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, so this has been here 12 hours. I messed around and went to sleep, but I figured it was going to be bubbling anyway. Now, there's barely some bubbles out, and I don't think that's probably ever going to change. So I'm going to stop right now and release the vacuum and let this thing soak for 24 hours. And hopefully we can see how much level the fluid has gone down. It's hard to see in there right now, so after 24 hours I'll pull it out so we can see the lines that we made before and catch up with you in a day. So here we are. It's been soaking for 24 hours, about 26 hours actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that bucket out of here and we're gonna see how much the level went down, and we'll see the importance of overfilling things. So now hopefully you can see the importance of overfilling this thing. If this was a smaller container, you know, I'd probably go down significantly more, and you would probably, if you didn't overfill it enough, it would get into the wood and you're wasting your time. So we'll go ahead and get this out of here. I'm gonna dry it off. All this was that you saw on top of there was just some pieces of metal. I got a socket and a piece of metal just to hold it down. That's all that was, in case you were wondering. And the other thing is, let me get the camera again. Before we started this whole process, that thing would float, like that's why I had to have these two weights on there so it would float. Now, it's not even trying to come up. So, obviously we did something. I'm gonna go ahead and let that sit and kind of drip dry for a minute. Then I'm gonna wipe it off and we'll get it in the oven. So now this cactus juice here, we have all this left. Well, just because we used it one time doesn't mean we can't keep using it. I'm about to go get some more wood. I'm gonna put it in here and I'm gonna keep reusing this stuff. And that's the cool thing about it. It's a little bit expensive, but just imagine how many pieces of wood I'm able to stabilize with this. So we've went through this whole process so far. I've kind of got the excess off of here. I'm about to put it in the oven. Now, 200 degrees is what we're shooting at. Under 200 degrees, it's not going to activate this cactus juice. Over 200 degrees, it's going to make the cactus juice seep out of here and then get hard, and then you have a ton to clean up, and then you didn't stabilize it as well as you could have. So 200 degrees, and then the thing about the 200 degrees is you can't overdo it. So if I leave it in here for 10 hours, it's fine. You can't overcook it, but you can undercook it. So I'm going to put it in here and then leave it at 200 degrees, and then I'll tell you how many hours it took to get this thing to where it was done. And then we'll wait after that and give you my thoughts afterwards. Once again with the tin foil, if I wrap this up with tin foil and then some of this cactus juice seeps out, and it will when you have the tin foil on it, it don't have anywhere to go. So then I'm going to end up having to clean up all of this with a pick or whatever. So somebody pretty smart told me, don't use that, don't use the tin foil, have it sitting on there and let this drip off into the drip tray. And we're going to do that, and if I change my mind later, then I'll let you know, but for right now, that's what I'm going to do. We'll come back when it's done cooking. It's been about 4 hours and we're going to take a look at it right now. You can see where this cactus juice is seeped out a little bit. This was on the tray right here, so it was sitting like that. And so now I just have to clean up that. I don't have really any in here I have to clean up, which that's what I was aiming for. Here's what was on the top. And I think it'll be the best to try to clean it off right now. I'm going to clean this up, and then we're going to weigh it after that, so stick around. I was putting some denatured alcohol on it. I cleaned this up. Just sanded it real quick, and man, look at it, it's pretty cool. Man, I'm pretty happy with this stuff, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm about to weigh this. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Oh, proof is in the pudding. We were at 344.6, and now we're at 926.3. That is amazing. I thought this was going to be cool, but it turned out to be really cool. I don't know if you can hear that. It hurts my hand to hit it. This is incredibly hard now, and it gained 581.7 grams. I mean, it's ridiculously heavy. I mean, it's going to make one heck of a mallet. I went over a lot of stuff today. If there's any questions, go over in the comments, and We'll have a discussion down there. Give a big thanks to Heath Knuckles, Casey Martin, Zach Higgins. I soak up all the information I can from those guys, and I'm here to show you that you can do it too. It takes a little bit of equipment, which it's really not that big of an investment to get into this stuff, and it turns out it's pretty fun. So this is about all I got. In the future, I'm going to be building a resin room. I'm going to be doing pretty cool resin casting stuff out of here, so follow along. If you've made it this far and you haven't subscribed yet, I don't know what your problem is. Just subscribe and let's go, and we'll see you next time, and y'all be good.